Go for it.
Aloha, snack bar, everyone. It is Friday, and since it's Friday, you know it's Rogue Money Radio, and we are back, and I am your host, V, the Guerrilla Economist, and my man, CJ, is working in the background, working the flux capacitors, making sure the airwaves are coming out crispy and clean, and we have none other than the teammate, confidant, the brother-in-arms, the one and only Ken, the shotgun Schortgen. He is always loaded with information and truth bombs. So put on your flak jackets, put on your safety helmets, whatever you got to do, just put it on, because things are about to get wild. You might get hurt, you might get rattled, you might have your paradigms altered, but you know what? Ken doesn't care, because he's all about reality and truth. So that being said, Ken, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Yo. It's super cool in the breeze on the counters, you dig.
What the hell did you say?
It's old Bob Shabam. It's lay down, break down, birdie on the hot side of town.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about, good buddy.
Oh, those are two of my favorite lines from an old 1970s light beer from Miller commercial.
Nice.
With the jive talkers.
That's it, the jive talkers. I love it. Oh, man. Where do you want to begin, bro? I mean, you couldn't be on last week. There's so many things going on. So I want your take. You put out some awesome articles up on Rogue. And on the Daily Economist as well, and on your YouTube channel, which people need to subscribe to, the Daily Economist. Where do you want to start, bro? Where do you want to start? I mean, this is a ball of yarn, buddy, so go ahead, pull the first string.
Well, obviously, we're moving this weekend into the French elections on Sunday. Monday.
Oui, Monsieur Ken. Do you think the establishment will remain in Paris, or will Marine Le Pen pull out the upset?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is even with the attempt to rig the elections by double balloting those who are in the EU, outside of the country, working in other EU member nations, the rise in one of Marine Le Pen's opponents could make the Frexit a moot point anyway. Yeah. The reason is because even with the subsequent runoff, the rise of Mélenchon, the communist, the Bernie Sanders of France.
Yeah.
He's also for, again, anti-EU, anti-Euro. So when you take Marine Le Pen supporters and you take Mélenchon supporters, you come out to about 42% of the electorate. Now, even if, Macron, Fillon's out, he's out. But even if Macron wins, there is going to be a growing amount of public support from the outside that the parliament in France may just go ahead and do a referendum anyway, no matter what Macron wants or decides, because they're going, he's going to have not really the majority behind him. He's going to win a runoff, but that's not really the majority in the long run. And I think the French people, especially since, think about it. Who was Macron? He was a rich elite boy who was the finance minister for the worst president in the last 150 years in France. So he's a nobody. He's going to get run roughshod, sort of like the way Congress has pseudo been doing on Trump. And with that being said, then the parliament's just going to go ahead and do whatever it wants. If Macron wins, at least they have somebody with some cajones if Marine Le Pen gets in there. So I think no matter what, the French electorate are going to want to push towards a Frexit. And, I know Andy Hoffman is making his prediction. He's been 2 for 2 on Brexit and Trump. He says Marine Le Pen's in. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at Emmanuel Macron. The thing with Macron is that he is also a former investment banker. He is very close to the Paris socialite scene, very well connected with the most failed Prime Minister, Manuel Valls. And he is running very terrible things in Paris. He's a stooge, bro. Every in and out, all through the whole entire thing is that he's a stooge. A total complete stooge. So they're running a stooge, a glue horse, who is not only a Bernie Sanders, but he's a Bernie Sanders with a little sprinkling of Hillary Clinton in there just to make it a little spicy.
See, that's the thing. Another thing that was brought up is the French people are getting to the point that viva la révolution. They're ready for revolution. And why Marine Le Pen has not been reinforcing and that was the one thing Trump was able to do. He was able to stick a label and a moniker on one of the other candidates he was running against, and they were then discounted. Whether it was no energy Jeb Bush,
no energy, low energy Jeb, crooked
little Marco, and things like that. Crooked Hillary. Well, why Marine Le Pen did not just take Macron's mug and just tie it to Hollande.
That's it.
As his finance minister, and that would have been the end of it right there. He would have been persona non grata, because Fillon is just a corrupt Sarkozy wannabe.
That's it.
And so now we've got between the two, and the French with de Gaulle was more than happy to take France into socialism in the 60s, and maybe Macron can take them into communism in the 2010s. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting, a lot of fun. And I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but the European stock markets have been all week. Maybe they're coming to the realization that the polls are much more in Le Pen's favor than they've been trying to pawn off. But I don't know if you saw the Zero Hedge article late today. VIX popped to 15.
Oh, that's good.
And it was like there was no news, there was nothing on a Friday afternoon. So something big happened. I think it actually was right about when European markets closed.
Uh-huh.
So somebody was making a huge bet on Marine Le Pen winning significantly in the election. So we'll have to see.
I think so. I think Le Pen, especially. Well, how do you think this last night's terror attacks would have done for the French electorate? I mean, if that's not a confirmation for the French people to wake up, hey, maybe we shouldn't have these crazy policies in place. Maybe being part of the Eurozone is not a good thing. I don't know what is, Ken. What say you?
Well, so the interesting thing is any false flag that is tied to terrorism is not going to help the establishment candidates. It's just going to keep reinforcing Marine Le Pen, get the immigrants out, get out of the Euro, get out of the EU.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of these attacks are really false flags per se. I just think when you bring in a bunch of radical jihadists or radical Islamists who are used to being the dominant and not subjects in their own country, and you put them in a Western world, they're just going to act like they're on the south side of Chicago.
Right.
So kind of funny, France, you're not allowed to have weapons. Well, how in the hell are they getting weapons? Yeah. Nice job, Hollande.
Yeah.
And Hollande's been a lame duck, and it's kind of funny that a few weeks ago after the terror attack with the truck in Paris, I believe, they all of a sudden Hollande comes up and says, "And I'm going to be a real leader. I'm going to be real strong." But where have you been? Where were you during Charlie Hebdo? Where were you during the
Charlie Hebdo, him and
the metalhead concert or whatever?
Yeah, whatever those guys were named. The concert.
Because I think at that time, during those times, he was still thinking of running. Now he doesn't care. So now he's trying to adapt his legacy at the last second.
Just like Obama.
Well, yeah, did you see Obama called Macron?
He called Macron for what?
Oh, because it's probably speaking for Soros.
Oh yeah.
Trying to give him these last second tips.
Yeah.
Or he was sending over some data on some of the other candidates for extortion and blackmail, because that's the Obama way and that's the Chicago way.
That's the Chicago way, exactly. We do things the Chicago way. He probably called GCHQ, got some dirt on Le Pen or something like that, and probably was trying to fan it over to Macron. It's the most ridiculous thing, man. I mean, look at Hollande. His last statement after this terrorist attack, Ken, was, "We believe that this has an appearance of terrorism. An appearance," he says. An appearance. He won't say it.
No, because he's a paid tool.
Oh,
You know, for a leftist, he's incredibly. You know, he's like Obama. People were sick and tired of war. They were the crash had occurred. You know, the economic recession had hit, and that's why Bush lost to Clinton, and Clinton only had like 43% of the vote. Same thing with Obama. You know, people were tired of Bush. They were going to bring in somebody else. Well, it's the same thing with Hollande. Sarkozy, they were sick and tired of him, and he was leaving it, you know, scandal ridden. So that's the way politics works when you have multiple political parties and coalitions. You know, they just throw in some lefty. I mean, think about it. That's how Syriza got into Greece.
Yeah.
And what happened to Syriza? Well, good old Tsipras. He when he was getting the business from Schobel back in 2013, he folded like a house of cards, and he took on more austerity.
Yep.
That's the way it works.
Absolutely.
That's sort of the way it's working for Trump too, isn't it?
No, it really is. It's starting to, but Ken, you don't understand that this is all part of 4D chess. Don't you know that?
It's beyond 4D chess. Let's go to the absurd. It's like 1,250,000th level chess that's being done by the Celestials in the Marvel universe.
Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah, we're getting ready for Trump Ragnarok.
Oh yes, that's what it is. And Jared Kushner is going to be Thor.
No, Jared Kushner is Loki.
That's what he is. He's Loki. You know, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, it's like the American public needs to wake up at this point. I mean, dude, I mean, I don't know all the details of what the hell's going on in the administration. I mean, this following week, we're going to hopefully have Roger Stone and Harley Schlanger on this coming week on Thursday for a hanging with Harley. I'm going to ask Roger. I'm going to grill him on this because, look, man, all we have right now is the theater of – it's kabuki theater. And, you know, that old saying that, you know, politics is the theater of the profane. That's number one. Number two, why are you going to put a punk snot-nosed kid who has Mossad ties in charge of your foreign policy in the Middle East? This is the most stupidest, most absurd thing in the world. I mean, I mean, there's such blatant holes here that unless things are quarantined off and lopped off and chopped off, and he is able to purge these miscreants from his administration, it's a lost cause, Kenny. That's what I stand on.
Well, and that's why I wrote that article, you know, a few weeks ago.
Yes,
Donald Trump lost the one thing the support of the populist movement. He stopped telling the truth, and the purpose behind that is I compared it really intrinsically to the presidential election of 1824. You know, here writing in as this populist candidate, the successful general of the War of 1812.
Yeah.
You know, the Battle of New Orleans. We're talking Andrew Jackson.
Right.
Andrew Jackson. You know, back then, actually, there was two political parties. There were the Federalists, and there were the the Whigs weren't there yet.
No, it was
there were the Federalists and something else. But then they merged with the Republican Federalists, and they had 5 candidates all under the same banner. Okay, so there wasn't these corporations called the Republican Party and the Democratic Party that selected one primary candidate. No, you ran if you got enough votes, and you had to have a 50% you know, plurality of the votes. If not, it went to Congress. And that was the thing is this one went to Congress in the initial vote. Andrew Jackson won in 1824. But Congress, even then, in 1824, we had an establishment, Henry Clay, and they made sure that John Quincy Adams won the presidency, and he was an immense screw-up. And so in 1828, Andrew Jackson won by a landslide. But he always, you know what, the thing about it is, Andrew Jackson, he was having an affair and married a woman while he was still married. He was boisterous. He was brash. He one time, of course, as president, shot somebody on the porch of the White House who was trying to assassinate him. I mean, and hit him with a cane. This guy was Donald Trump, and because he was so popular, the people didn't care about his foibles.
Right.
But he never lied to the people, and he fought. His campaign thing. I will kill the bank, and that's the epitaph on his gravestone. Well, what did Trump do? He came in with all these promises. I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to build the wall. I'm going to stop TPP. I'm going to cut taxes. I'm going to replace Obamacare, whatever. And how many flip-flops has he done?
Well, I counted 5 in 24 hours, Kenny. How about you?
Exactly. And think about this. If it,
but Ken,
politics is, go ahead.
That's 5D chess, bro.
Oh yeah, but the point is that politics is a murky game. Okay, I'm not denying that, and sometimes you have to do things in secret, especially when you know that not only the people on your staff, the Priebus's, maybe the Kushners, maybe whomever that's still there, the CIA, the NSA, are going to leak whatever you're trying to do. Okay, I understand that you do it in secret. However, if you have the American people behind you, and you walk in with this behind you, and you start using the American people as your bully pulpit and your big stick, Congress, that's the one thing Congress fears, getting voted out of office.
Yep.
And if he had gone out to Twitter, and every time that Paul Ryan tried to do this, and going after the Freedom Caucus was the first big bad step he did.
Explain to the audience what happened with that debacle. I don't think people fully understand that. What
ended up happening is that Paul Ryan had this great plan. Okay, this is now I understand in part why they were doing this, because there is not a majority in the Senate. You cannot simply vote a majority vote to replace Obamacare. They have to have the majority vote, and so what they would do is they were going to. Ryan plan was going to repeal and replace parts of it while keeping the original bill framework around there. And then what they were going to do is once they had filled in the spot with what they had repealed, then they were going to take another chunk out and get that. And so they were going to keep the Affordable Care Act in its frame, but it was going to be completely empty and filled with this new Republican thing. And Ryan supposedly felt that he could not get everything of a repeal and replace in one fell swoop because the Senate are the globalists, the neocons, the neoliberals, even the Republican side, they do their own thing.
Right.
The Freedom Caucus was saying, no, you have to put the whole thing out there, boom, because the Freedom Caucus believed that once Ryan and the Republicans, the neocons in the House had passed a little change, then they would have stopped and said, look what we did. We repealed and replaced.
Exactly.
And it would have done absolutely nothing. So the Freedom Caucus was saying, BS, you are going to go ahead and do this whole thing because we don't trust you that you're going to do steps 3, 4, and 5 like you promise. And Trump was playing both sides of the fence. Okay. Trump was more than happy to see the Congress fail because when Congress fails, he gets more political capital.
Right.
However, and that's one of the reasons too why the media and the American people did not hold the failure of the new healthcare bill, not even coming to a vote. They didn't hold that against Trump. They held it against Congress.
Right.
But then he decided he overstepped his bounds, and that's what happens with Trump. Trump will get the ahead, the advantage. And then he says something stupid like he did in the campaign. He just goes too far. He doesn't know when to do enough, stop, and then let the natural course of order do things. And so he goes after the Freedom Caucus. Well, if you're going to alienate your base, the libertarians, the Tea Partiers, the real conservatives in there, then you're not going to, I mean, that's a shot at the people, at the populace who put those people in. And so what he's doing really is he's deceiving things. His deception is so great that really people have no confidence or trust in what he's going to do. So if he comes out and does something, now it's like, who cares? It's the same as though.
It really is, and I feel you on that. I think you nailed I think you nailed it on the head. Here's the deal: when the Syrian missile strikes occurred, people were like, "Well, he's trying to show strength to Russia," which you and I and the entire team on Rogue Money, we knew that was utter and complete and total bullshit. And I've said this before. What I stated was, if you really, as an American president, as a leader, if you wanted to show strength to Russia, the first thing you would do is set out and do what you promised that you would do, which is, quote unquote, drain the swamp. You would start putting handcuffs on people who needed to be cuffed. You would start dismantling the very things that were stopping the United States from moving forward, the individuals. But yeah, what do we see here, man? You have George Soros running free. Like, I'm thinking about this for a second, dude. They're going after Julian Assange. But George Soros walks free? I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And, I don't know. I know they've made comments of recent days against Julian Assange, but I really don't trust the New York Times or the Washington Post or whoever came out with the story that they are ready to file charges against him. Like I said, I can't trust the mainstream media. So until I see it come out in an indictment, then this is that 57D chess.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's doing it to try to appease the National Security Agency. I mean, think about it. If he did this to get the discussion of Russia involvement in his campaign, his staff, and into the elections, well, guess what? A House subcommittee just re-brought it up. So all if that was the thing behind it, it's moot. The other thing about it is you cannot fight evil by wading into evil.
Correct.
You have to burn and eradicate evil.
Correct.
He should have access to all the stuff on the pedophilia. I mean, why he can't take the pictures of John McCain there with Al Qaeda leaders and ISIS leaders, and then send the NSA. Look, if Obama can make a small little claim in a FISA court that Russians are involved with the Trump administration, we need to start tracking it. He can easily get a FISA warrant with some of the evidence that they already have to go grab the emails off of McCain's PC, or that were stored in the database or in the servers that show that he was involved in the false, beheading, photography that was done for that propaganda.
Right.
And he should be out of there. And same thing. And once you grab somebody like McCain, you throw him in. By the way, the NDAA is still in force. The president has the power to grab anybody without charge, warrant, and whatever. If he starts plucking these people, throw them into prison, he doesn't have to answer for anything.
No.
We suspect, and under the NDAA, which you Congress passed, we suspect that he has ties to terrorism, and we are indoctrinating him now.
And the American people will stand and applaud, because I've said this before, man. We're not out for blood. We just want to make sure that the laws that these guys, these tyrants, put upon us, for the longest time, we want to make sure that these laws actually work for them as well. That this is not just some sort of a giant hoax. I mean, look at the Susan Rice situation, Ken. This woman was practically gift wrapped. Has anything become of that?
No, because that's why I believe one of two things. Trump is either much more ignorant than we think he is, and all the things he said in the campaign trail were just the pulse of what the nation was looking towards. And the second thing is that Trump has always been a flip-flopper. He calls it negotiating an open mind, but it's really a flip-flop. You don't sit there and be friends with Hillary Clinton and be a Democrat back in the day and give money to both political parties. And now all of a sudden you're Republican, you're a moderate, you're a libertarian. If you don't have a grounding, a foundation of morals and values that says, I am this is what I believe in, I'm going to stick to my guns, then the American people can't trust you on any of your promises or any of this. And that's a key thing. Is, even Congress can't trust. Congress can't trust. The American people can't trust. But think about it. Trump is such an egoist that he has to come out at least once a week on Twitter and Facebook and tell everybody, look what I've done. Look, I've kept my promises. I'm doing this. Well, actions speak louder than words, do they not?
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks to the Syria thing and moving in. Now, it's kind of funny. I almost am in agreement on sending battleships to North Korea because it's a gambit beyond North Korea. What did it do? It caused China to finally get off their ass and start to castigate their little stepbrother.
Right.
And that has been needed for a long, long, long time. And so, all these things are going on, but the problem is when geopolitics today, the chaos is so great in this frequency shift of the second decade. It only took a wrong turn by Archduke Ferdinand's driver to start World War I.
Yep.
That's all it took, because the nature of the world is just as it was there. That's why we're having the French elections. That's why we're having Brexit. That's why we're having the economic crisis, implosion that we're going to have soon. This is why we're having the rise of Donald Trump, and we're having gridlock in everything. We're gearing up for war. I don't know. It's not a matter of necessarily being scared or wary or curious or who knows, but fact of the matter is it is completely out of control. Any single thing can do it. And North Korea doesn't have to go after the United States. If they go after South Korea, it's on. Everything's over.
Yeah, if they go after South Korea, then all hell breaks loose. China enters the theater. China will lock down the South China Seas so rapidly, so quickly. There will not be a single U.S. vessel they'll be able to enter. And that's number one. Number two, energy shipments stop. Price of oil skyrockets. Things start coming. The credit markets start breaking up rapidly and quickly. The derivative market implodes. And we are in a crap storm within a matter of hours, man.
Yeah, and if supposedly Trump wants these things to accelerate and to expand so that the crash can come sooner.
That's 5D trust.
Well, that's like telling the American people, hey, we know that millions of you and possibly hundreds of millions around the world are going to die in this next crisis, but it's something we need to do, and we're more than willing to do it. That's the problem, is psychopathy, psychopathic mentality. CEOs, bankers, and government officials are the breeding ground for the psychopaths of the world to move into. And that's what we are saturated with.
Exactly.
Fortunately, there's only one sane person. Well, there's two sane people in the world.
Yep, Putin and Xi.
Exactly. And they're trying their best. And they're reaching out with economics. By the way, I don't know if you saw an article I had threw up on the Daily Economist, but Jim Rickards had been invited a few weeks ago to go to the U.S. Army War College.
Uh-huh.
And it was for their advanced. And he was saying, these are the captains and majors who are the top of the top, the high IQs, the ones who are going to be generals, in the future.
Yeah.
And he said in their asymmetric warfare training that he did a 2-hour seminar on financial warfare.
Uh-huh.
So the military now has financial warfare as a key component of all military stratagem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have an individual on our team who was involved in the use of
Exactly.
financial warfare to bring down the Soviet Union
Right.
back in the day.
Right.
So it's interesting that this is being done, and it's why Russia has created the ESFS. They've gotten completely out of debt. They've accumulated gold. They're creating these trade unions, and why China is doing the same thing. Because if you know that economic warfare is a key stratagem of the West, NATO, and the United States, then you are already have in place the mechanisms not only to counteract it, but to make it rebound upon itself and cause the harm to those who use it.
Correct. And at the end of the day, you want to stop the cabal that is running the West. You want to put an end to this evil. You want to stop the financial warfare, the asymmetrical warfare, the covert warfare, and all the other dark mischief that is occurring because of the West. All you got to do is kill the very thing that's holding this whole entire paper elephant together, and that's the dollar. You kill the dollar, you avert World War III. You kill the dollar, you avert all their shenanigans and their penchant for empire, Ken.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is indeed true.
And this is what's very disheartening for me. It's like, I'm waiting for tangible, credible advice. I'm waiting for one little modicum of information or a position that says, hey, XYZ happened, things are all right and on course. I have yet to see that. We've seen it in the beginning when the sixth floor of the State Department was wiped clean. Great. We've seen it in the first month when 1,500 plus pedophiles were arrested. Awesome. Okay. But ever since then, it seems as if a hijacking has occurred. The nationalists are being pushed out. The populists are being pushed out. The neocons are back. You having somebody who is, think about it. I mean, Kushner, the guy who George Soros gave $250 million to, and you wonder why Soros is floating around A-OK while all this rhetoric by Sessions is coming out and Pompeo is coming out about wanting to arrest Assange. I mean, you wonder why China is no longer a currency manipulator. Why? Because it turns out that Jared owes over 300 some odd million to the Chinese.
Well, there's something interesting, and when you take a look at that, this isn't something I said, but there was an interview that Robert David Steele. Now, if you want to hold somebody reputation, let's take somebody who's been long standing in the CIA for 26 years, and he has been influential enough to be nominated for a Nobel Prize.
Wow.
Okay. That's somebody who's got at least a modicum of legitimacy. Mm-hmm. He did an interview, and in one of the articles I wrote on Rogue Money, I can't remember which one, and I put the video of the interview in. He stated outwardly that Jared Kushner is a Mossad agent.
Correct.
And that the youths who were trained up in that, their purpose was to find influential daughters of influential men, get in close with them, marry them, and then be tied into that.
Right.
So, what happens? The attack in Syria, the false flag chemical attack, occurred, as you've said many times in the morning shows and in the interviews over the past week and a half. It occurred just when Kushner was in the Middle East. And supposedly, according to Robert David Steele, he has a direct line to Netanyahu.
Yep.
Who's the only person to benefit from Trump getting into a conflict in Syria?
Netanyahu.
That's Israel's the only one. There's nobody. There's no one Assad doing it, because the next day they were getting back for the next round of peace talks.
Hey, Ken.
Supposedly, yeah.
No, just real quick, because I want to clarify that whenever I watched that presentation, I had been in direct communication with Mr. Steele, and I asked him specifically to interview with Rogue Money to discuss his accusations regarding the Mossad, regarding Jared Kushner. And he responded with that he did not say that was direct. He said it needed to be explored. And
Okay.
so he's welcome. He's welcome to come on and clarify his stance regarding his statement during that interview. And he still has an open invitation to come interview with V.
Very good.
Also, another
Yeah,
thing.
the implication when I saw the video was, and he may have just expounded upon it a bit, but it seemed like that was the impression. So that's fine. We'll leave it as the alleged.
Well, here's the thing.
Sure
I will back up what Steele say, but I'll let you finish first because we have a very top Middle Eastern source that's part of our team, and I'll tell you what he said. Go ahead, man.
Okay. Let's see where I was at. Okay. Oh yeah. So who benefits? Israel, obviously. Assad didn't have any chemical weapons. He voluntarily gave them away. The UN had already proven that the chemical weapon attack from 2013 or 2015 was done by Al Qaeda and the Syrian rebels, or ISIS and the intelligence agencies, mercenary troops. And so there was for Trump to immediately jump that and play this. What are we at now? Last was 651st degree chess.
Oh yes,
or dimensional chess. For him to do that, it was really in answer to somebody else mandating to him. Now, were those mandates the generals?
No.
Were those mandates the neocons? Or were those mandates to the very country that Trump loves to say he supports with all his being, and that's Israel?
Well, it was because his little princess was very upset, Ken. She was very upset. And then Jared told the Widow Princess, "Oh, Widow Princess, go tell Daddy to go bomb a country." And that's what Widow Princess did, because she was so upset because of the children. That's what happened, Ken.
I think that's all bullshit, too. I think that's absolutely crap. Do you think Ivanka Trump has never seen children abused on the news or somewhere else in the world, and it hits her like that? Yeah. Right.
Exactly. The children, it was because the children. No, it was because Netanyahu said, we got to send a message. You got to make yourself look strong. And then Jared, of course, knows how to pull he knows how to push the buttons there real quick. But I'll tell you this, back on the Jared thing, and I'll say this real quick before we move on. The Prince, who writes for Rogue, he's somebody whose identity I guard, vigilantly, because he's a very, very, very precious source in the Middle East. And when I divulged who he is to W like almost fell off his chair. And when it comes to the Middle Eastern connections, you're not going to get anything better than him. Period. And I'll give you a little hint when we're off the air, Ken, about
No worries. I don't need to know.
Yeah. So anyway, Prince confirms through his UAE intelligence sources. This is confirmation coming from Prince through the United Arab Emirates intelligence sources that Prince is connected with, that Kushner is indeed a Mossad asset. He is indeed 100% unequivocally a Mossad asset. That's what he is.
Okay.
Is he an agent? I don't know, but he's
and that's what the CIA does. CIA has agents, they have assets, and then they have a third section that's like recruited. Those they recruit that don't even know they're being recruited by the CIA to do a CIA function.
Exactly. And guess who's another asset? Gary Cohn.
Oh, no doubt. I hate to say it, and for anybody who is an interest, I did a interview about my book, The Israel Deception, with Sean over at SGT Report back in February. And, it lays out what the difference is between the real Jew, the blood Jews, and those who follow the religion of the Talmudic Pharisees. And those today, nearly all the Jews out there are the ones who follow Talmudic Judaism. And as such, they have no ties to the real original religion or of God or whatever. And so, whenever they say Jewish bankers, well, it's absolutely true, but it's not Hebrew Torah following bankers. It's Talmudic Judaism, where you can use usury against the goyim, that type of thing.
The whole thing is you have this death cult, and you have this death cult, and there's seems to be these secretive mystical branches within Judaism, within pretty much every world religion out there.
Hey, Catholicism has it. Think about it. We've got a Jesuit.
Yep.
And we have Tom Horn. I don't know if you heard or know of him.
Yeah, I know.
Tom Horn wrote, along with Chris Putnam, the Last Pope.
Yeah.
And he predicted a year in advance of the rise of Pope Francis.
Yeah, he even said that Benedict was going to immediately retire out of nowhere, and that's exactly.
He said he would resign in April, and when he resigned like a year later, it came out that he had officially, he had unofficially resigned in April of the year before. So he was dead on, and the world didn't know it. So every one of these religions, if you think about it, they're man-made institutions, and they all are about power, seeking power.
Correct. And that's why there was no problem.
Think how much power even something like Joel Osteen has over hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people.
Millions of people. And the thing is also, Ken, that people seem to forget, how many Jews, quote unquote, not the real Jews, but those who are Jews in name only, who sold out their own people to Hitler. I mean, on a silver, they don't care. That's what I'm trying to say. Is people? This is what people need to understand. Like a book like Ken's, it could get a little over people's heads. But one thing people need to understand is this: the motive of these people. They can be a sect of Hinduism, Islamics, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Catholics, whatever, Shintoists, whatever. But there's a death cult at play, and their ultimate goal is power. And they don't care about who they throw under the bus, who gets thrown into the wood chipper. I mean, case in point, Zionism. Everybody who created Zionism and talked about what is the divine right. They're talking about divine rights, but every father of quote-unquote Zionism is an atheist. It's the craziest thing in the world. But are they really atheists? They worship something. Okay, they worship something. And this is what I want people to understand. This is not a Catholic conspiracy. This is not a Jewish conspiracy. It's not a Protestant conspiracy. It's not a Muslim Islamic conspiracy. And people who just limit it to that type of a bracket really miss the whole, trees through the forest, so to speak. This is a global cabal. This is a death cult. And they will use whatever moniker, whatever group they can to get things done. Period, man. But in this case, with this current administration, you have a lot of Mossad assets. You have guys like Gary Cohn, which, Harley Schlanger said this. I've said this. The guy's a killer. This is a guy who was a ruthless son of a bitch who on 9/11 closed the doors in Goldman Sachs and says, nobody's leaving today. You all going to go back upstairs and start trading. This is a crazy son of a bitch. And it's him and Mnuchin that want they want some modern day Glass-Steagall that's totally toothless and powerless that only benefits them and their cronies.
Well, think about it. There is a few tiny things in Dodd-Frank that has kept the Wall Street from going full retard since 2008. Just a couple things. The rest of it's absolute garbage.
Right.
But Trump wants to get rid of all of it on Dodd-Frank and allow for speculation of get rid of the reserves, the emergency reserves that the banks are supposed to hold, and just go hog wild.
Let it.
So frankly, if anybody is in the market with anything besides a speculative bet right now since 2008, then I have no compassion when you lose all your money, all your retirement, and that. And speaking of that, I've got an article I popped up on the Dropbox that Peter and that are probably going to publish in the next few days. But it's called "It's Finally Come. Wall Street Wants Your 401k."
Oh, here it is. We've been talking about this for years, Ken, and now it's here.
Stephen Schwartzman of Blackstone. Yeah, Blackstone and a number of these hedge funds that not only have lost money, even though the Dow has gone to 21,000, they've lost money for their clients, but the number of redemptions that are being done over the past 2 years are so enormous that these hedge funds are having to close up shop. So Stephen Schwartzman of Blackstone is looking to get his fair share of fees from America's $4.8 trillion in 401k assets. As Schwartzman told Bloomberg, you have to have a dream. And his dream is apparently to lay waste to a whole new pocket of American retirement wealth. Well, guess what? We've already had the attempt by Nancy Pelosi to confiscate annuities and IRAs under the umbrella of the U.S. Government. We have the MIRA. And how long until Wall Street comes begging hat in hand to Congress, their paid tools, to then allow mutual fund 401k managers to then sell their clients and all their assets to these hedge funds, because obviously the 401k guys, the pension managers in the States and everywhere can't get a return. So they're going to trust in their buddies in these hedge funds. And when that happens, the jig is up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and guess who's also chummy with Stevie Schwartzman, buddy?
Who? Soros?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Soros.
Oh, Gary Cohn probably Gary Cohn probably is the head blank in charge. We'll leave that blank. And everybody in Wall Street, the same way with Hank Paulson.
Yeah, I mean,
Hank Paulson,
bagman for Bernie Madoff, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
He's one of the bagmen. Him and what's his freaking name? Oh God, Merkin. What's the guy's name? Ezra Merkin. That's the guy's name. Him and Merkin and Schwartzman. They were the bagmen for Madoff, and then you have the guy who I just mentioned his name, the freaking guy who Jared brought on, Gary Cohn. Yeah, Gary Cohn. So Cohn's he's a shot caller in Wall Street. It's the old money mob.
Yeah, and you know what? They're all losing money. They have a track record of absolute. You've already laid out the Kushner legacy when it comes to investments and money and borrowing and debt and who they're enslaved to. But something else is interesting coming up. I wrote an article over at one of my other sites. IRS is now going to commission private bounty hunters to try to find income tax avoiders.
And this is when people need help. They don't need prosecution or harassment. They need assistance.
When you take the article I wrote for Rogue Money and you take this other one by the IRS, what does that say? That says that both Wall Street and the government are so desperate for money that all bets are off. The rule of law is gone.
Yep.
Think about this. You're hiring private bounty hunters and private security. Okay. Didn't we have this in the late 19th century called the Pinkerton Detective Agency? Yep. Who was the private security for Rockefeller and his corporations. And they had a standoff at one of the mines. It's a famous thing in, I believe, West Virginia or Pennsylvania. Yeah, several people got shot and killed.
Yep. They also had a standoff in Chicago at a factory, and people were shot and killed.
So you're gonna have a government agency that's not really a government agency; it's a holding company in Puerto Rico that is going to then commission, just like we commission more private security in Iraq and Afghanistan who have committed atrocities beyond human rights violations. We're going to have them get private security and these bounty hunters to go do raids on people. We're doomed. The chaos is getting so great.
Yeah.
You would think that the mythological god Ares, who gets his psychic power from increasing chaos around the world, was getting ready to come down and just annihilate mankind.
Yeah, man. Well, the mythical god Ares that's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what's happening. Chaos is being courted. And the only two politicians, the only two powers in the world that could stop this bullshit from getting worse, and is the Chinese and the Russians. The West have lost their minds. They've lost their minds, bro.
Everybody's lost their minds. In part, it's because of the programming that's been going on since the 60s. I mean, think about it. Maxine Waters has a law degree from Harvard. Would you ever send your children to an Ivy League school
But she's brilliant.
if that is what it comes out with?
Well, she was very disheartened and troubled that, Putin invaded a country called Lumpompo.
Well, true. But then again, that clown from Georgia thought that Guam was gonna tip over.
Oh yeah. That if we put more U.S. troops in Guam, I fear that the island might sink or tip over.
By the way, on another note, I know that you and Bix go hog wild talking about Bitcoin. And I always try when I get on here to bring a different side, because I'm not for or against. I haven't come into thing. I just my spirit is not telling me to get into Bitcoin, but I'm definitely not telling others not to.
Yeah,
it's not something I'm for. But I've got two interesting negative stories and one positive story. If we've got a few minutes. Mm-hmm. There is a new cyber hacker group called the Large Bitcoin Collider. It's named after the
Hadron Collider.
Hadron Collider. What they're going to do is they're going to use some of their hacking skills to do like massive DDoS attacks on electronic wallets, break through the encryption, and steal the Bitcoins from everybody who's got an electronic wallet out there, period.
Oh, that's good.
So they're going after Bitcoin wallets. And right now, we don't know if it's something that it's like, you know how hackers look for a challenge? That's just their mentality. They don't necessarily look for money. They just want a challenge. Hey, I hacked the FBI. Hey, I hacked the NSA. So what is the one thing that Bitcoin wallets are supposed to be? They're impregnable.
Yeah.
The encryption is impregnable. So that's like a challenge for these guys. So I don't know if it's necessarily to do that, but it's just something that if you're going to have Bitcoin, then Bix is correct. Make sure you put it on a paper wallet. The second thing is that Wall Street, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME, is now finalizing a patent to allow derivative trading, futures contracts for Bitcoin miners. So Bitcoin is now being considered a commodity like farming and other things, oil for airliners, et cetera, and they're going to allow Bitcoin miners to buy futures contracts, puts their calls on Bitcoin mining, especially as the amount of Bitcoin, it gets harder and harder and harder to mine a Bitcoin as it gets less and less and less. So now we're going to have what happens on Wall Street when you open up derivatives contract? They financialize it from just the individual who needs the insurance for his Bitcoin mining operation, the high cost of it. Then everybody can get into it and buy it, and then it gets turned into CDOs and CLOs and synthetic CDOs, and all of a sudden you have the Bitcoin market space is now a quadrillion-dollar entity. This to me is why Bitcoin is going to fail at the end, is because if it had remained a peer-to-peer currency, then it would have fulfilled Satoshi's dream. But the fact of the matter is that when third-party conduits started treating it as a global fiat currency and created exchanges where you can exchange your Bitcoin for dollars, euros, yen, and back and forth, then it is now, from what I've heard, only 3 to 7% of all Bitcoin transactions are actually for commerce. 93% are speculative investments.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, which would you rather buy? If you had a fistful of $10,000, would you buy Bitcoin with the promises that it's going to go to $1 million someday? Well, if Bitcoin came to the value of dollars to $1 million, the dollar's going to be long gone. So that's sort of a moot point. What's going to be in value to in relation to. But on the flip side, we'll give some positive spin, because you know what? Unlike Bill O'Reilly, we are fair and balanced. For the joke, for those who enjoy Bill O'Reilly finally getting fired. An MIT professor believes, and he did a seminar, that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies could actually save the financial system.
Yeah.
What say you, V?
It could only save the financial system if it remains in its purest form, which is a peer-to-peer lending system with no hierarchical power structure. If there's a hierarchical, without
you hit
that,
the nail on the head.
That's the only way it could save, because that's what Satoshi wanted. He wanted, the labor to be returned to the hands of the people. He wanted the power to be in the hands of the people. Now, if the very nature of the blockchain prevents a hierarchical structure from emerging, but if those that are in Bitcoin sit there and allow these nefarious individuals to come in, like the Gudgen Voss brothers, those idiot whatever twins,
Winklevoss.
all these other idiots. Yeah, Winklevoss, the Twinkie Winky brothers, if they come in and they want to go ahead and start financializing Bitcoin, then you know what? Then it's no good to nobody. It's no good to nobody. And then it's up to those that are in the cryptocurrency world to create an alternative and to create it very rapidly. And I've said this from the beginning, Ken. Bitcoin's success hinges upon the fact if they can get it away from the hands of the nerds and the quote-unquote speculators, they need to get into the hands of the people. That's what allows them and the people to partake in a global economy and get those who are unbanked, which is right now about 6.8 billion people on the planet are unbanked or underbanked, allowing them access into a global economy. That's the only way to do it. Without that, we're dead in the water.
And see, the key thing is, supposedly there's 21 million total Bitcoins going to be mined, 16 million so far. Let's take out 10% that have been lost for people whose hard drives have failed. They've lost their passwords over time, and fringe people like that. So 21 million Bitcoin, even if it can be fractionalized to the millionth point, is not going to function with 7 billion people and 200 countries that have governments and needs and all that, or a financial banking system. Bitcoin, the concept of Bitcoin, they need, the only way it's going to work is, that's why I said to the point, is if it becomes the peer-to-peer currency of commerce in the general economy, which means that Wall Street never touches it, governments never touch it, nobody touches it. I think one of the things that the Blythe Masters and all that crew is doing with the blockchain is they're eventually going to make a cryptocurrency that's going to be used on the financial side of the house.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, Bitcoin, the concept of Bitcoin as a currency for the people, and whatever blockchain token, digital token they want to use for interbank settlement, this is going to be this is going to be Glass-Steagall on steroids. You separate the financialization from the general economy, from commerce, the free market, and never the two shall mix. This could be something along the lines of what Jim Willie has said. There's going to be a domestic dollar, and there's going to be an international trade dollar based on gold. It may not be in that mindset, but it's going to be similar, and that's how you do it. And and each country can have their own separate cryptocurrency that's specific to them, and international trade will be done at the Wall Street government level of trade, and all domestic things will be done internally.
Yep.
I think that's the only way it's going to really work, because if you have a singular currency like Bitcoin and then you try to use it for global use by 7.5 billion people, for governments, for whatever, there's always going to be certain individuals that are going to try to collect all of it.
Right.
Just like we've done with quantitative easing, the moving of money, displacing it from the people, from the middle class to the 1%. There will always be that. So you have to always have that line, which we did with Glass-Steagall until the 90s, separating the investment bank from the commercial bank.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Ken, we're at the end of the broadcast, man. Give out your shout outs, plug your site, your social media, and how people can get a hold of you, buddy.
Thank you as always. Just check me out at the dailyeconomist.com. The IRSS, all in the articles, both from Rogue Money and from the other sites that I write with. You can go out to YouTube and just put in the Daily Economist and check out the podcasts. I usually put out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And other than that, I am just a speck. I'm a leaf in the wind from the movie Serenity.
I love Serenity. That was a great movie, bro. One of the best science fiction movies ever.
Exactly. I'm a cult follower of that.
Yeah, me too. Big fan. Big fan. That and Firefly. What a great series that was.
Exactly.
Loved it. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening in. Check back with us next week and Monday. Stay tuned Monday for when me and CJ get back on the morning show routine again. Other than that, enjoy your weekends and have a safe and wonderful Friday. We're over and out. Take it away, CJ.